Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan. Today, we've got on a wonderful guest, Steph Fritz from Callzilla. We got into all kinds of things, front-end staff, CSRs, customer service, how to diffuse situations. It was a great show. Thad, what was your favorite nugget?
There was one part in the show where we talked about three words that can raise a red flag when somebody's calling in. And you want to pay attention to that because we talked about a couple other ones that also come up as well. But how do you be able to pivot and use an acronym to be able to help with that red flag? So there's two nuggets all wrapped up into one. So be sure to check out that part. Steph, how about yourself?
Yeah, so we're also talking about technology and AI and how we can really use these new tools to improve and enhance customer service.
That was a cool part of the show. I love that part. And for me, it was all about KPIs. How can we make data-based decisions in our business to move forward and help our staff improve? I love that part of the show. And you laid out the exact KPIs that you look for at Callzilla and are going to be very helpful to all of the owners and managers that exist in the space today. So I love that part of the show, but we do want to hear from you. What was your favorite part of the episode? Leave it in the comments down below. And of course, hit like and subscribe because, well, it helps us reach more people. So thank you so much. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan. We have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, buddy.
Good to see you again. This white rye is getting a little not great, so I had to mix in some pop in it today, but it's just not.
I don't know why you go with white rye.
I thought I'd give it a shot,
I mean, white owl's not bad.
There you go.
But
I was going to say something awful there, but I definitely bit my tongue on that one, and I'm going to hold on to it.
Realize that we're recording and we're live, so there's no take backsies.
Exactly.
So, yep, there you go.
Wicked. Well, we've got another great guest on the show here today. We've got Steph Fritz from Callzilla, and yes, we are going to be talking more about CSRs, front-end management, customer service. Why? Because we're a marketing company. We spent the last 5 months having people across the industry, whether they were clients or not clients, concerned about call volume and the demand that was coming in or lack of demand. And it was an opportunity to really sharpen the saw on your operations and getting your customer service department dialed in. And we continued to bang our heads against the wall as we listened to calls where there's a lot of missed opportunity there. So we're trying to add as much value as we can on the customer service side, being able to dial in those services. So I'm excited to get into another conversation with that today with Steph.
Right. And look, this is an opportunity for those that might not have had their operations in order, or they forgot about the whole CSR aspect of things. And they're like, well, shit, now what do I do if demand starts picking up and people are calling for the repair work? Well, it's another alternative option, right? To be able to give to somebody that might have a million other things on the go. Look, we're business owners too. We get it. We get pulled in a ton of different strings, and sometimes shit gets missed. So this might be a great opportunity, but I'm going to love the knowledge that she's going to bring. So
absolutely. And she's got a tremendous background too. She's been in retail for a long time, working at both Macy's and was an executive with Pandora as well, working on the management side there. And then for the last year has been with Callzilla and helping them grow as their VP of business development. So I'm excited for the conversation.
Perfect. Well, speaking about helping businesses grow, three actually sponsors of the show can do that. Chirp, Profit Rocket, and On Purpose Media, all designed to help you grow. Chirp is the first one up, and they are a automation toolbox for home service pros. Basically helps you capture more leads, connect faster, and close more deals with direct integrations also into Service Titan, House Call Pro. I was actually in one of our clients' Chirp account today and was looking at all the on the way texts that were getting sent, and it's all congruent to the same number from the marketing end when you start texting them on the very front end. So same number all the way through the process, pretty neat. And it really, the one thing I also like with them is the rehash program. We had another client that did 40,000 within 2 weeks of signing up for them just by their rehash program alone. So if you want to take advantage of those things, you can get 25% off your first 3 months at chirp, CHIIRP.com/HSSR. And of course, once you get all those leads in, You need a blueprint.
And you need to be able to sell them. And there might not be any better coach in the entire industry when it comes to sales than Victor and Profit Rocket. Go check out callprofitrocket.com for all the details of all the different things that they offer. They're doing a whole bunch of classes right now. He just got finished one in Pennsylvania. He's got another one coming up. So go check out Call Profit Rocket for that. But as a business owner, you need to be dialed in when it comes to SOPs. You need to be dialed in when it comes to understanding not just top line revenue and how to grow that, but bottom line profits. The blueprint will give you everything that you need to know within your business, how to run it, and everything that Victor's done to grow his business from 0 to 40 million in the last 4 years. So go check out callprofitrocket.com for that. And of course, he's got the Growth Summit coming up in September. There's a ton of speakers that they've been adding. And I'm proud to say a lot of them are actually our podcast guest alumni, so to speak. So we've got Dustin Vorman, we've got Stephanie Postel, we've got Anthony Pereira, Andy Elliott, Wyatt Hempworth, Mario Lopez, Joe Crisera, Sean Michael Kane, Kenny Byrne, Dan Antonelli, Michelle Van Beek, and of course, the headliners of Tim Grover, Marcus Luttrell, and Amanda Triolo. It's going to be a phenomenal event, September 27th to 29th in Austin, Texas. And I can't wait to see you there.
I almost pressed the wrong button.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Welcome, Steph.
Hi.
How are you now?
Good. That countdown is intense. It's stressful.
We're just we're trying to ramp you out a little bit, get you excited.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh,
awesome.
So that voiceover, by the way, we traded a bottle of whiskey for.
Nice.
Legitimate, actually. On brand, of course.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Steph.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Well, why don't you give us a quick synopsis of your journey to Callzilla and who Callzilla is?
Sure. So you mentioned it earlier, but I have been with Callzilla for just a year. Prior to joining Callzilla, and I'll get into what we do, but I worked for Pandora Jewelry for the last 6 years. I live in Maryland, so our Pandora's headquarters is right here in Baltimore. And I oversaw all of customer experience for North America. So the call centers, the customer experience in the stores, all of that. I went to a trade show and ended up meeting my now boss at a dinner, and we kind of hit it off, started conversations, and I was starting to look for something new, and he was looking for a head of business development. So he really wanted someone to join Callzilla that had, the business side of the world. So I knew how the client side of things worked, how businesses worked. So really all he had to teach me when I came over was sales specific and of course Callzilla. So Callzilla it's a contact center outsourcing company. So if people don't really know exactly what that means, you hear the words call center, contact center. A lot of companies in the US and throughout the world will outsource their agents or their customer service to companies like ours. They don't want to do the recruiting, hiring, training, managing of the agents, all of that. They'd rather outsource that to a company where that's all that company does and focuses on, so that then they can really focus their efforts on the other parts of their operation and businesses. So we are one of those companies. We're headquartered in Florida, and we have agents and operations globally. So we have agents in Colombia and agents in South Africa, which we can talk about that later if you guys are interested in, why we picked the locations and things like that. But historically, the company's been in business 18 years. We would partner a lot with, retail clients or e-commerce companies, healthcare, consumer packaged goods. And it really wasn't until last year that we really started to tap into HVAC companies specifically, and then the trades. So we're learning, we're excited about this industry. We can kind of tell you guys, where we started, how we learned that this might be a good fit for us. But that's high level what we do. There's a lot of details we can dive into, but that's it in a nutshell.
Nice. One thing that you mentioned is customer experience, and from your previous experience, and obviously, what you do now is, it kind of blends into customer experience, right? When you think about somebody answering the phone, that's the first point of contact that somebody has with a company, and you want to make sure that that principal point of contact, that first thing, is done the right way. We've had it on a couple of guests who've talked about customer experience being the new battleground. Do you agree to that, and if so, why?
Being the new battleground, I think it's still it's the most important piece, right? Like you said, that's the first touch point to the company. And if you don't get that right, their whole perception of your company is going to be skewed, or it's going to be negative. So I think it's a battleground in a sense that in the US right now, it's really hard to hire good customer service reps. The turnover is really high. Hiring in general is tough, or you get people that come on board, get trained, and then they leave. So you're spinning your wheels on things like that. So I think it's tough to get the right people and to get those skills. But yeah, it's not easy, but it is very important. Yes.
Okay. And on that same line, I guess when you're talking about the first point of contact, customer experience, what is the worst thing that somebody can do when it's the first point of contact? Somebody calls in, hey, my AC is broken. What's the worst thing somebody can do?
The worst thing an agent can do?
Yeah. Anybody, any business, any person answering that phone, not necessarily an agent, but just any single person, business owner, CSR, agent, it doesn't matter. What is the worst thing that they could do when somebody calls in with that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the worst thing they can do is not be friendly, empathetic, understanding. I mean, even if you don't know the type of call, the topic, you're not well trained on how to answer the questions. Like, it all starts with having a smile, understanding, sympathizing with the customer, and then taking it from there, especially if they're calling with, a complaint, or something's broken, something's not working in their household. Like, you have to start out. It's all about just the overall tone of voice and quality.
Love it. Yep, that's bang on. Corey also had a great little chime in here as well. She's in the Facebook group, so that's why it says Facebook user. But
I was trying to pull that up to see who it was.
Yeah, it was Corey. I would say the worst thing is to not listen. I definitely agree with that as well. Oh, she said hi too.
Hi, Corey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not listening to someone, not showing empathy, not getting on their level. Like, everyone wants to be heard. Yeah. And it's very easy to not convey that properly on the phone. So what sorts of techniques and tools would your team teach your customer service representatives in order to really empathize with the person on the other end of the phone who's struggling in that moment?
Yeah, so it's a few things. When we train our agents, they're onboarded with, of course, whatever the client's specific training is. So product knowledge, company knowledge, all of that. But they also go through a rigorous Callzilla training, which is all the soft skills, how to listen, how to ask questions, how to, show empathy and provide suggestions, solutions, all of that. So they go through, not only their account they're going to work on training, but also customer service skills training. And then from there, it's all about us monitoring the calls or emails or chats, whatever the form of communication is, from a quality standpoint. So we have systems, we use AI, but we have systems that analyze 100% of the contacts for quality, for tone of voice, keywords being used, words that shouldn't be used, all of that. And then the big piece is then using that to coach the agents quickly to reverse any bad behaviors, recognize great behaviors, so on and so forth. But yeah, it's training and then analyzing and following up with the agents.
I love it. So you're getting a full transcript then of every call script? Is that what you're doing? Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's a call, the system, transcribes it to text, highlights it, keywords, good, bad. And there's a million things the system can do, but overall it's how good was the quality, and are we doing what we need to be doing for good customer service?
I love that.
So that's your guys' speech analytics, correct?
It is. Yeah.
Right. So let's extrapolate and go on that a little bit more, because we've heard, you and I, like the three of us were chatting a little bit before about ChatGPT and how AI is helping radically shift in terms of people utilizing that for their content. In terms of the AI that you guys leverage on your guys' end, how can, or I guess what's involved in that?
Yeah, so we have a platform, a system that we use. We build it at the beginning. So say we signed on a new HVAC company, we would work together to kind of design what's the scorecard. What does that company want to hear? Are there keywords they never want to hear? We have a client, for example, if the words Better Business Bureau ever come up on a call, that system is sending red flags to everybody. So the platform is kind of configured to that program. And then from there, it analyzes literally 100% of the contacts almost in real time. So a call ends, it's analyzing and it's spitting out, a score evaluation on how well did the agent handle it? Did they have a good tone of voice? What were the keywords? What was the customer sentiment? All of that. And, in combination with that, we have a quality management team that's in the system checking to make sure that everything's accurate. So they're spot checking it because it is technology. We want to make sure that it's giving true results. And then the leaders are still using it to then use that data to go sit down with the agents and coach them and show them, on the screen how they're doing. But for us, it's been a really big game changer because not all contact centers, customer service departments, companies have this tool. And when you don't have a tool like this, like for example, at Pandora, I did not have a tool like this. What we call a more traditional quality management process is a person sitting in a quiet room with a headset on, listening to calls. And the industry standard shows that at max, they can probably listen to 5% of the calls. Usually it's like 2 to 3% of the calls. So you're missing, 98% of the calls. If, Evan, I listened to only 2 of your calls, they're both bad. Well, what if the other 98% were good and I just happened to randomly pick 2 bad calls?
100% of his calls are bad.
Yeah, probably. But so these tools are cool because then there's no subjectivity. There's not a supervisor that doesn't really like Evan, but really likes me. So it's going to give me a better score, so there's no subjectivity and you're getting true data across all of the calls. So we found it to be, from a quality standpoint, game changing, and our clients, they love it. I mean, it's really cool.
So I got 2 things that well, first off, you mentioned the BBB red flag. I want to come back to that. But the thing when I hear the AI and leveraging it, how can, I guess, a business owner help impact that, by way of what they do? Is there anything there that can happen, or is it mainly just on your guys' end for the internal training to continually go back and look at?
So the business owners can help by making sure, the training of the agents is where it needs to be. So at the beginning, we're onboarding a new client. We're not the experts. So we need them to funnel all their knowledge to us so that we can fully train the team to become essentially an extension of that brand. We want them to feel like they work for that brand. So if the business owner or the leadership team there hasn't given us the tools to be able to train those agents to then do well enough to actually score really well, then that's a problem. So that's the first thing, business owner can help with, getting the agents up to speed from the beginning. And then from there, they're on weekly, monthly calls with us, reviewing the data, seeing how the agents are doing, and they can provide feedback. The more involved they are and the more feedback they give us too, we start to learn, what are their quirks, what matters most to them, because everybody's a little bit different. So we always encourage them to be as involved, look at the reports, dive into the dashboards, and you can tweak the tool along the way. If you start seeing a bad behavior that maybe we didn't know at the beginning, or a sentence or something that we really don't want to hear coming out based on the location of the business or something, then we can go in and tweak it. So if they're involved in seeing the data, they can help with that.
Perfect. Go back into that BBB red flag, Evan, unless you had anything more on that particular topic. Nope. BBB, Better Business Bureau, it sparks off red flags. Why?
I mean, I think for this particular client, it means that customer is angry. Something went really, really wrong. They're going to escalate it to that level. They need to fix it right away. They've bypassed hoping that customer service can help. They want to go straight to the top, and nobody wants that. They're going to get bad reviews. Next thing you know, it's on Facebook or, Google reviews and all of that. So it's just not good.
Right. So when somebody's on and, somebody mentions BBB, I guess, how does that call shift, right? What does somebody do when they're talking about the BBB, because I mean, the BBB, look, on the other side of things is that you pay to be part of the Better Business Bureau, right? Most people don't realize that as a consumer, that those businesses are paying to get their 5-star or A+ rating or whatever the heck it is on there. But when somebody's referencing the BBB, what can a person do to and not just your agents, just business owners or anybody that's a CSR listening to this, because sometimes business owners are listening to this show and they're also picking up the phone. They're like, oh, Better Business Bureau, I never thought about that. What should I do differently? CSR is listening. Hey, Better Business Bureau. Oh, what should I do differently to be able to handle that call efficiently?
Yeah, I think the first thing is try to figure out how to solve the problem. There's obviously an issue. So start asking questions, back up a little bit. Let's not talk about BBB, but how can I help you? Let's see if I can solve your problem first before you need to go there. And then as the business owner or as the agent for our team, for example, it's their job to then figure out what steps do I need to do to try to resolve this? And whether that's I can actually resolve this on the phone. Sometimes the customer thinks something is so terrible, but it's actually very fixable right over the phone. I can log in and I can solve this for you. If they can't, a business owner, I would hope you would have some thoughts on how to solve it. But for an agent, if they can't, it's then they have an escalation process they follow. They know what their next step is. Like, it's out of their hands. It's too big. It goes to a supervisor. And, worst case, it gets kind of put down, I'm going to get back to you. And then we reach out to our client to figure out how to solve it. But for the most part, I think the person on the phone, if they ask the right questions and they have the tools and the knowledge of the business, they should be able to come to some resolution.
Sure. What might be some of those questions that they ask? I know it's kind of dependent. It's situational, right? I get it. And we want to try to talk in generalities here, but it's basically a way to identify other red flags, right? That might be on the customer's end of things. So are there some questions or some tools that somebody can leverage that doesn't have you guys as an option?
Yeah.
That's, again, a business owner answering it themselves. They might not have that. What are some tools that they can leverage to be able to help disarm the situation?
Yeah, I think, I went to a customer service class a long time ago, and I'm trying to remember the acronym, but it was all about following this. It was a LAST mentality, and it was listen, ask, solve, and I can't remember the T, of course, but I think it's important, everybody wants to be listened to. So let them vent a little bit, let them, get it out. And then you're starting to get an idea of what the problem is. And then from whatever they're telling you, start asking questions to dive into if you don't know by then. I mean, if you know the issue at that point after listening, just solve it. Start saying, I'm sorry that happened. I understand. Here's what I can do to fix it for you, or here's how I can help. Or if you can't solve it and you need more information, start asking those questions. When did it happen? How, what, who, all of those things, so that you figure it out and take notes and then try to use your resources to come up with a solution.
That's funny. Thanks, Google. I actually had pulled the same thing up, and I'm like, last acronym, customer service, and it's listen, apologize, solve, and thank.
Thank. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's also another one that I like that is least. That also showed up. So listen, empathize, apologize, solve, and thank. So it's adding that extra step of empathy that goes into it. And that goes right back to the very beginning, right? We talked about empathy is a big thing that somebody can use and leverage on a phone, especially when somebody's calling, and especially when you're a home services business, and especially when you're an HVAC business, and especially when it's hot as fuck in the southern US and their air conditioner is broken, right? People are upset, and you need to empathize with them. It's not just, going straight into the solution, hear them out, have that empathy.
Yep.
Well, and
exactly.
you also need to clarify, right? Like, this is something from sales training in terms of objection cycling and things like that. You need to isolate the problem, right? So clarifying and repeating it back to them, like, is this actually the issue, or is there something else that's there as well, right?
Yeah.
Identifying these common problems, because it's very easy, especially answering the phone. Customer has a problem, you go straight into your acronym here, right? You're empathizing with them, you're feeling what they're feeling. And so the thinking part kind of shuts down in your brain to identify, like, hey, haven't I had this problem before?
Yeah.
How is it that you go about identifying these common keywords or common symptoms of a problem that we need to identify this? Or on the flip side of that, common keywords that lead to a positive result more often than not? What is it that you're doing? Or what could someone do who maybe even doesn't have the software in order to identify these positive and negative keywords or trigger words?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that, we do and anybody can do is call, reason codes behind each call, flag each call at the end of the call with a code and have some reporting. So, for this day, 50% of the calls came in about, I don't know, broken air conditioning or whatever, or complain about the technician. You'd want to know what percentage of people are not happy with the service they got or things like that. So that's a simple way, even just using Excel to see what the trends are. And then, using some of the fancier tools like we talked about with the speech analytics and things like that, it'll flag keywords. It gives you a keyword bubble at the end of the day. Like these were the most used words for the day. The bigger the word, the more it was used. And then you can click in and, dive in to listen to those calls. But I think understanding why your customers are calling is important. And then using that data to then see if you have processes to fix, are they all calling about something that's fixable? If you change an internal process or a system or a tool or whatever, then, use that data to lead to those decisions.
I'm glad you mentioned the people calling in to complain about a tech, because this is something that, I mean, even as you talked about the software that you're using, something that sparked an idea for me is data-based decision making.
Yeah.
And if you can track, the amount of callbacks on the technician side to identify whether or not they're doing their job and repairing things correctly. On the CSR side, what sorts of things are you looking for to make data-based decision making on what to improve upon? What aspects of the calls they need to improve upon? Is it listening more? Is it showing more empathy? That kind of a thing. What sorts of metrics are you looking for that?
Yeah, so we have a whole slew of metrics, and we work with whoever the business is to figure out. We have all these metrics we could track, but what's important to you? But it's everything from handle time of a phone call. Average handle time. How long is the customer on the phone? If it's really important to you to get those calls over quickly, whether it's for financial reasons, we don't want to be spending a lot of money on the phone with the agents, or whatever other reason, we'll track to that and we'll coach to them, ways that they can be swift and speedier. Service level is a big one. So that's the percentage of calls answered within 20 seconds. So typically you want at least 80 to 90% of your calls answered in 20 seconds. That's a big one. We can talk about one of our HVAC clients specifically. That was where they struggled the most. They were missing like 30% of their calls weren't even getting answered. So then you shift over and, you take over that business and you realize how important it is to have the staffing. We did a staffing analysis to make sure we were staffed at the right times to have that high service level. So that's a service level. We'll track, some companies want surveys at the end. So like a customer satisfaction survey, things like that. And then, average speed of answer. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can look at, but it's really what's meaningful, most meaningful for that client and that business. For us, we're looking to make sure the agents are being utilized correctly. They're logged in when they need to be. Their quality is where it needs to be. Quality is really important to us, that they're giving the best possible customer service. But yeah, service level, handle time, those are big ones.
Love that. Thank you.
Another one, I'll mention one more, error rates. So specifically for the trades, we've heard a lot about, and it's not just for the trades, but there's other companies too, where agents will not take detailed notes, or they'll have an error in the notes. And for the trades specifically, we had a company come to us and said, it's a really big problem because my internal CSRs, they're entering the wrong information. And then the information then funnels to the technician. The technician loads their truck with the tools, heads out to the house, gets there, and doesn't have the right set of tools because whatever the issue wasn't documented correctly. And then that, they need to book another appointment. They need to go back. That, it causes a lot of loss of time. So we listened and we heard that and we're like, okay, so specifically that's a metric we need to track, and we need to understand and make sure that whoever's answering the phone, and this goes for everybody, whoever's answering the phone, make sure you're listening and taking really detailed notes, because errors can result in overall loss of money if you're having to go back multiple times and you're not able to, and bad customer service, because then the person doesn't get fixed what they need fixed in a timely manner. So that's a big one.
And so you're just tracking the amount of times that there's an error in the notes compared to, got it?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I love it because it's
Interesting.
so
And that's something that somebody can easily do themselves too, right?
right.
Yeah, of course.
Well, and it's I like to go deeper on that than the regular, what's your booking rate? Because especially in tools like Service Titan and things like that, the booking rate is altered and changed based on whether or not they said it was a qualified lead when they called in, and it becomes an excuse call. Well, if you're just excusing calls that were good leads because you couldn't book them, that's an issue, and now your metrics are altered because of it, right? So going deeper on this, yeah, I love these KPIs. They're great.
Cool. Random question generator.
Yeah.
All right. So you're familiar with the show, so you know how this works. Random question generator, by the way, is brought to you by On Purpose Media, your local home service, aka HVAC marketing experts. If your marketing sucks, call us on purposemedia.ca. We'll get it fixed up for you. Gotta come up with a better readout, Evan. Hey, use ChatGPT for that. All right. So we have three different choices here. You get to choose. No, there's actually four. Never mind. My bad. Can't read. Choose question 1, 2, 3, or 4, and I'll read it off for you.
3.
What is something that someone does that will immediately turn you off?
And just for me, general. Oh my gosh. Chewing with their mouth open.
Love it.
That's a bad one.
Yeah.
Just gross. And it's loud and it's annoying. No.
Everybody knows somebody somewhere that does that. Or they're just like really loud chewers. Even their mouth might be closed, but they're just loud chewers. And it's like,
I hate loud chewers.
Why do you sound like a horse eating your food?
My children. That's them.
Yeah, mine too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like that'll turn you guys off? You're like,
Absolutely.
I'm out?
Why do you think I yell at them?
We haven't quite got there yet. They don't quite talk back. They just scream and cry and tantrum, meltdown, go on the floor and scream. And they're like, what are you screaming about? Oh, you didn't want jam on your toast after you told me you wanted jam on your toast. Got it. Okay. Makes sense. Do you want your toast cut? Yes. Cuts toast, melts down. Didn't want his toast cut. Right? Kids.
This is a learned behavior, I think.
No. All right. You'd mentioned your call centers being one offshore, one I would classify technically offshore, but also near shore. The way I look at it is, same time zone, right? Down in Colombia, one in South Africa. So somebody might be listening to this and they're like, okay, well, why would I want to go offshore? Are there any potential implications of that by having somebody that isn't North American based or US based?
It is a good question. So yeah, like you said, we're near shore is Colombia, offshore is South Africa. We started out in Colombia. We've been in Colombia the whole time. We just expanded into South Africa last year. So some of the benefits, let's talk about the benefits of why we would want to do that. So staffing, you can staff, hire, scale for peak seasons, hire quick, efficiently, both of those locations, as well as near shore, offshore locations around the world. It's just, it's the way it is. The unemployment rates are very high. South Africa, for example, is at 33% right now. So there's a lot of well-educated, skilled people that are looking for work. So that's different. And attrition. So South Africa, for example, the turnover, the attrition is less than 2%, where in the US, it's, I don't even know anymore, 20, 30, 40% more. It's high. So, there's benefits, and cost is, we don't often like to talk about, we don't want to say that that's a benefit, because really you're getting great quality service, but you are able to save, this cost savings compared to outsourcing in the US or even staffing your own team in the US. You're going to save money doing it in these other locations. And, if there's people that you said are asking, why would I want to go to another country? I don't want my customers calling another country. It goes back to what I said earlier. It's all about training. If we get them trained to be members of your team, yes, you're not paying them with your payroll. You're going through a company like ours, but we want those agents to be trained to the point where they are an extension of whoever they're working for. They're dedicated agents. They work for one program, so they become like ambassadors to that program. And if it's a language thing, so we have, Colombia obviously is high Spanish and English, bilingual agents. They go through rigorous English testing, evaluations before they even make it to be interviewed. But if that's still of concern, which based on people's location in the U.S., we have heard concerns around that. South Africa is then a wonderful option because their native language that they speak is English. That's what they're born and raised speaking. Yeah, there's like that pretty South African tone to some of those guys, but it's beautiful. And, so that's why we're in multiple locations, so we can kind of cater to what matters most to our U.S. clients.
And I've heard a lot of people mistaken the South African accent for a British accent anyways, which people aren't going to question.
Right?
Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, and especially for any businesses that are in California or in the southern US as well, there's a lot of Spanish speaking people who live in those areas, and to be able to have a bilingual agent is incredibly impactful.
Right?
Exactly. And, these countries work on US hours. So it doesn't matter what your hours of operation are. They're staffed around the clock, but also, they're used to working with U.S. businesses and working our hours of operation and things like that. So it just works. Are you yawning? You look tired.
Who, me?
Yes.
No,
He was burping.
I was burping. I wasn't yawning. I actually am doing pretty good today. There's been a couple shows where I have been a little bit tired with the new baby at home and the 202 club, but overall not horrible today. So I was actually just looking back at the at some of the notes that I've been writing down on it. So that's all. No tiredness, a little bit.
Good.
Coaching, that was one of the things I wrote down earlier, and I think a good opportunity to be able to go into. When you look at coaching a CSR, coaching an agent, a business owner is sitting here looking, okay, well, how can I help coach my staff? What are some of the things that, and I know we briefly touched on some of it and, some of the data and the numbers that you guys look at, but when you see that data, when you have that, what are ways that a business owner can say, okay, well, I need to coach my own, and I'm talking their internal staff, right? If they don't necessarily have the resources of that, what you guys have, they're looking at their internal staff. What are some things that they can do internally to better prepare their team?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think a big piece of it is if they have some data that they can use to coach, that's always helpful, because especially in the trades, we know that missed calls equal missed money. So if they can figure out how can I best coach my agents so that they can get to the phone, answer the calls so that I'm not losing money. I mean, that's what we've learned from the clients that we do have in this field is it's all about dollars, money, appointments being booked. So it's coaching to, are they logged in when they need to be logged in? Are they picking up the phone, looking at what times a day we're missing calls and figuring out, is there an issue with this person's schedule or, do we need to coach them to how often they should really be up and about taking breaks and things like that? Really looking at those numbers to figure out where are there issues or opportunities in coaching to that. If they can listen to call recordings, even if it is just one a day or whatever, listen to one, put yourself in that customer's shoes, and then it'll just tell you, they could be friendlier, they could stop interrupting, or they're over talking a little bit. They need to step back and listen and then talk. And then share a call. It's always been a best practice that if the business owner or manager sits down with the agent and says, we're going to listen to one call together. I mean, that's a huge coaching session right there because you hear yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, I did do that. That's bad. That's going to help them improve, if nothing else, that's a good exercise to try.
How does one go about framing that? Like, hey, let's just sit down and listen to your calls, or is there a better way to frame that for somebody that might not have the tact to be able to have that conversation easily?
Yeah, I think that they could just say, it is a best practice in customer service. Companies across the world, it's a best practice that we listen to calls for quality and to understand why customers are calling and get trends and understand, so they don't think you're being like Big Brother just spying on them. You're listening to calls to find out how to better help customers. And along the way, I would just explain and maybe explain it up front. Like, we're going to start doing this in a month where we listen together to one call, for quality. We're trying to improve our customer service across the board, and don't pinpoint them, but we're trying to improve the technicians' quality, customer quality, the CSRs, the business owner, everybody. And this is just one best practice that's out there. Nobody likes it. They're not going to love that exercise, but it is a meaningful one that helps. And if they don't want to listen to it together, at least the business owner listens, jots down a few notes, and then can at least say, I've heard through some calls, these are some issues I've heard. I want to talk to you about them, and here's some ideas of how we can improve here.
I like that framing it, as a way of when you look at it across the board and overall efficiencies, right? And look, you cannot be scared to say, okay, well, 90% of why we're doing this is efficiencies, customer service, getting better across the board. But 10%, you know what? We just want to make sure that you're doing your shit right.
Yeah.
There's one tool that we use with our team, and I openly tell them that, right? 90% of why we're doing it is for the efficiencies within the organization, and 10% just make sure the shit's getting done the right way.
Exactly.
And when you're upfront and honest about those sorts of conversations, I think it goes a lot further with it to be able to allow the desk along, to sit down and listen to the calls. And I would, if you have the time, maybe even more than once a month,
Yeah.
one call a day, if you have the opportunity and the time. I mean, depending on how big your team or your size is, or have a manager that has that expertise in those things to be able to do it more often. So that way you can really impact the customer service in your business, which goes back to that customer experience that we talked about at the beginning, in impacting customer experience the right way.
Yeah.
Well, and it's great because as a CSR, it's recorded automatically, right? There's no awkwardness behind recording those calls for a customer or anything like that. Like I worked at I sold engagement rings. I wanted to see if I could sell a product that I had zero belief in. And so I ended up selling engagement rings for a little while, and I hated it. It was awful. But we had to record a sales presentation once every 2 weeks. It was just a standard practice that you had to do it. And so I think it's a great tool. Like, I used it more for myself than I needed to use it with my manager or anything like that, because I'm going to be my harshest critic.
Yeah. Well,
So-
and another option could be, if they don't want to do that or it doesn't work out, is just if the manager or business owner carves out an hour a week to go sit with the team, sit where the CSRs are sitting and kind of just listen, observe. You're almost shadowing. They know you're there. They know you're listening. And I used to do that at Pandora. I would go sit on the floor with them for a while. And the things you just pick up from kind of sitting there and listening, you'll pick up some coaching opportunities quickly just from doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
The one funny story I had was I was recording one sales presentation, and the guy, his objection, or not even objection, he came back to me and said, well, at the end of the day, it's going to be an investment anyways, right? So I may as well just go ahead and get the bigger one. And I had to stop the recording. So I was like, I can't let them hear this. And I also couldn't lie to him. I'm like, it's not an investment. It's going to depreciate in value before it appreciates. Don't buy it because of that. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. Get the smaller one.
Yeah.
And he ended up not buying anything. So, but I couldn't lie to the guy.
But diamonds are forever, don't you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But marriage isn't. I couldn't resist. I could not resist. Bad.
I love the Bill Burr stand-up when he talks about, or was it Louis C.K., where he talks about how marriage is not forever, but divorce is.
Mm.
We went on a tangent there. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's bring it back. Definitely want to make sure that we give everyone this information here. So if you want to get in touch with Steph at Callzilla, make sure you check out their website, callzilla.cx. Thank you, Thad. You can email Steph directly at sfritz, that's FRITZ, at callzilla.cx. And of course, you can reach out to her on her cell phone as well, 443-878-5491.
Yeah. Perfect.
Wicked.
All right. Evan, any final thoughts?
I just have one final question. So if you've got something else you want to talk about first.
No.
Great. Steph, what is one question that you wished people had asked you more, but they don't?
That is really hard. I don't know. My gosh, like work wise or personal?
Either one.
Whichever.
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm gonna take a rain check.
Not allowed.
I don't know. Maybe just more. I wish people would ask about each other's personal lives more. You know, I'm on calls all day and all we talk about is work, work, work. And I think we all have lives. You guys did a great job about that today. When we first logged on, we chatted about our kids and all that. But I think it's important to get to know the people you're working with and not just always dive right into work. So.
No.
So Steph, outside of being a mom and running the family and work and all of that, what is it that you do for fun in order to disconnect and just take care of you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I live on the water. So I live in Maryland, Annapolis, Maryland. So I have a paddle board. I like to go out on the water. You're right. I'm a mom, so I'm constantly running after my two little guys. They're 2 under 8 in my case, but spending time with friends and family, going out on the water, doing things like that, yoga, wineries, travel. I was in Nashville this past weekend for the Taylor Swift concert, which was awesome. So yeah, trying to squeeze in friend time when I can, but yeah.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is that when people ask the personal questions, more often than not, they go straight to the, like, how are the kids? How's the family? And yeah, I love my kids and I love talking about them and I can brag about them till I'm blue in the face. But at the end of the day, rarely do people ask about the things that actually light you up.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
I love that. How was Taylor Swift?
She was awesome. I went with my girlfriends. They're huge, huge fans. But we went on Sunday night and the concert was delayed 4 hours for rain. So she ended up coming out and she played the whole show in the pouring rain until 2 a.m. It was
amazing.
Insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's incredible. It was cool.
It was at the Nissan Stadium?
Yeah.
Nice. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Nashville's such a fun city.
So fun. I love it. Yeah.
Highly recommend everyone go check it out.
Agreed.
It's a riot.
I'll add it to my list of places that I want to go that I'll probably never make it to.
Yeah, you got to go. You got to go check it out.
Maybe once my kids are older.
There you go.
Take them down. Yeah. Get them into country music, then go down to Nashville.
Uh-huh.
Go hit up the honky tonks.
There you go. Maybe I'll have to wait till they're both 21, and that'll be more enjoyable. Fake IDs. All right. Thank you, Steph, for taking the time out of your day to chat with us. I know that we dropped a lot of information here for everybody to consume and think on. So thank you for that. And until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Steph.
See ya.
Oh, we forgot the cheers. There we go. Evan, get your glass up there. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, 2 quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business.